right.
Earlier this week, another big announcement rocked the Dota 2 world. After his team 4 Hour Utopia disbanded, William Blitz Lee formed a new squad with some very familiar faces. The new team, Zephyr, consists of Blitz, Sexy Babo, Eosin, Corey, and Purge. Now, Purge was kind enough to stop by the studio to talk about the team, their new manager, and his transition from caster to player. Let's check it out.
My name is Kevin Purge Godek, and I'm currently playing for Team Zephyr. In the past, I was mostly known for my YouTube channel as well as some casting, but I kind of felt like going in a new direction because I was feeling like I was stagnating a little bit. So I had the opportunity to travel to Korea and join a pro team, so I figured why not, basically. It's something that I've been kind of wanting to do, but not something that I really had the opportunity. And at least in the Western scene, I've been playing a little bit amateur the last few months, but it never really something this big. So I really felt like I could pass this opportunity up. The reason I haven't played competitive for very long or in the past is because I wasn't really good enough, and you could argue that I'm still not good enough for the actual pro scene, but the Korean scene is a lot weaker on talent and strategy, so it's definitely something that I can compete in and excel in. It's very easy to watch VODs or watch streams of somebody else playing and to see mistakes that they make, but when you actually have to sit down and make the decisions yourself, it's a lot more difficult. So by watching the streams, I was like, oh, these teams suck, but once you start playing against them, they get advantages over you, and sure, you might be able to beat them in the end, but it definitely isn't as one-sided of a situation as you thought it would be. I wouldn't necessarily say that the Korean playstyle is very different than the West or the East. Dota's too dynamic in my eyes to have real big playstyles. Like, people do pushing strats, or maybe they'll do heavy ganking strats, but you can maybe argue that they don't play certain heroes very often, like Jen or Enchantress. Not very few Korean teams play, but I'm sure that stuff will change as they get more and more experience. Our training regimen is pretty standard as far as I know. We just play every day, more or less. But basically, we just play around 4 to 5 hours, maybe a day, of actual scrims. And then we probably each individually play at least an hour to 4 hours of pubs a day. And that might include streaming or whatever else. So we still play a lot of Dota, and I don't really think anyone's getting burned out. And once in a while, we'll just hop into other games or all hang out. And we all always go get meals together and things like that. So we spend a lot of time together. It's really fun. Since moving to Korea, I think the biggest culture shock is just absolutely not knowing anything about the language. I've traveled a little bit growing up. I did 3 months in the UK for an internship during college, and I went to the Czech Republic and a little bit of Mexico as well. But this is the first time where I've been in a country where I absolutely spoke none of the language. So it's been kind of tough just going to restaurants and not knowing anything to say. You don't even know how to order, or you just point to stuff, and it's pretty simple like that. I'm not entirely sure how fast Korea will catch up to the rest of the Dota 2 scene. It's very difficult to tell, I think. At the very least, it doesn't seem like there's that many teams competing at the moment, so maybe the player base isn't super large. I have no idea what the numbers are like. But just from what I've seen so far, they've definitely gotten very good very fast. But regardless of that fact, I do see the full Koreans actually getting pretty good pretty fast, and I think that within less than a year or two, I could see a top Korean team. Team Zephyr is currently competing in the NSL Season 3. We ended up qualifying by going 2-0. So there's only 8 teams left, basically. And I believe it's all best of 3s. If we get through the round of 8, then it's losers bracket as well. So we should have a really good shot at making it to the finals after that point.
All you fans out there in the magical land that is esports viewership, Mr. William Chobra Cho
basically sent out a tweet asking for a manager, because we previously had one, and it ended up falling through, and nobody responded to his tweet, which I'm not too surprised of. He asked for somebody that spoke Korean, English, and did not smell. Apparently it's really hard to find. But eventually a fan, I believe, referred, basically said, why don't you ask this guy? And Will looked into him and was like, I don't think this guy looks like he has a job already. And then he ended up responding and said, oh, actually, if I have some free time, I'd be willing to help you guys out. So we're like, all right. And he's been fantastic so far. He's been doing a really nice job. Really on the ball. We're absolutely happy with him. So it's really glad that we found him. He might not be permanent, but for now, he is our current manager, and we're very happy to have him. The chances that Zephyr will make it into TI4, I think, are very low, honestly. I'm sure that we'll increase a lot in skill level over the course of the next couple of months, and I think there's a good shot that we could play in the qualifiers, but I would be really surprised if we could beat a more or less top-tier Chinese team, because if you think about the way it works, I mean, there's 16 teams in TI, 14 are probably going to get invites. That leaves at least maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 really good Chinese teams that might not be the best in the world, but they're definitely extremely good. And whether or not we can beat those guys is up in the air. So we'd love to play in the TI4 qualifiers, but I don't really know if we're going to win them. I'd be really surprised, to be honest.
All right, a little interesting fact about both Wildshow and Kevin. Both of them were once casters right here at MLG.